Greetings, explorers of shadows and seekers of hidden truth. Welcome to another incursion into the depths of existence, here at the portal to the unknown. Today, we venture into a territory where the light of faith clashes with the shadow of incomprehension, and the severity of divine justice questions the boundaries of human mercy. An ancient, brutal, and enigmatic story confronts us with one of the most disturbing inquiries in sacred texts. Why did God kill Ananias and Sapphira for lying? Prepare for shocking interpretations, for the truth is sometimes more unsettling than the darkest fantasy, and the simplicity of a lie can conceal the deepest roots of spiritual corruption. The early church, and a troubling incident amidst the initial fervor of the early church, described in the book of Acts of the Apostles. A community was forming, marked by unity, sharing, and a devotion that defied the world's conventions. Believers sold their property and possessions, and the proceeds were given to the apostles to be distributed according to everyone's needs. It was a utopian ideal, a glimpse of a kingdom of love and altruism. But, as with every light, a shadow loomed large in the most vulnerable corners of human nature: the deception of Ananias and Sapphira. At the center of this unsettling narrative are Ananias and Sapphira, a couple who apparently wished to participate in this noble sharing. They sold a property, but unlike others, decided to keep part of the value for themselves, while presenting the rest to the apostles as if it were the entire sale. The account is found in Acts of the Apostles chapter 5, verses 1 to 11. The apostle, Peter, moved by supernatural discernment, confronted Ananias with the dark truth of his action. In Acts of the Apostles chapter 5, verse 3, Peter asks, "Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and to keep back some of the proceeds of the land?" And then in verse 4 he declares, "While it remained unsold, did it not remain your own? And after it was sold, was it not at your disposal? Why has it come into your heart to do this? You have not lied to men, but to God." The punishment was instant and terrifying. Ananias fell dead at that very moment. A few hours later, Sapphira, his wife, arrived, unaware of what had happened. Peter questioned her about the price of the sale, and she repeated the same lie. To her, Peter pronounced, "How is it that you have agreed together to test the Spirit of the Lord? Look, the feet of those who have buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out as well." Acts of the Apostles chapter 5, verse 9. And like Ananias, Sapphira also fell dead. Terror spread throughout the community, unraveling. The divine judgment, the human mind, so accustomed to logic and proportionality, immediately questions the severity of this retribution. Would a lie, however serious, justify such an immediate and brutal death sentence? After all, how many times does humanity lie in small and great things without a divine lightning bolt striking them? To unravel this mystery, we need to go beyond the surface of the narrative and delve into the depths of what this story reveals about the nature of the divine, the sanctity of the sacred, and the fragility of the human soul in the face of the corrupting power of hypocrisy. We can conceive of the death of Ananias and Sapphira not merely as a punishment for a lie, but as a cosmic warning, a seal imposed by a greater force to preserve the purity and integrity of a nascent order. In many ancient traditions, the breaking of a sacred oath or the profanation of what was considered holy brought about cataclysmic consequences. Let's consider the principles that governed ancient priestly orders and divine laws in various cultures. In Mesopotamian texts, for instance, the violation of a pact with the gods or the adulteration of divine offerings were considered grave transgressions, capable of bringing curses not only upon the individual, but upon the entire community. Babylonian law, though human, echoed this gravity in its punishments for falsehood in specific contexts. The book of Exodus, in its description of the tabernacle's construction and instructions for the priesthood, is full of warnings about purity and strict obedience to divine laws to avoid death. Exodus chapter 30, verse 21, for example. Let's also remember the fate of Nadab and Abihu, sons of Aaron, who offered unauthorized fire before the Lord and were consumed by divine fire, Leviticus chapter 10, verses 1 to 2, or even Uzzah, who touched the Ark of the Covenant to keep it from falling and was struck down, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 7. These events, distant in time and culture, share a common thread: the violation of the sacred, disobedience to a specific divine order at a crucial moment for the formation of a people's spiritual identity. Ananias and Sapphira did not touch a sacred object, but they attempted to corrupt the very holiness of the community that was being forged by the Holy Spirit. Their lie was not just about money, it was about the purity of their hearts and the integrity of their devotion before God Himself. The purity of the early church, the early Christian community, was the new temple, the earthly manifestation of the Holy Spirit. Transparency and sincerity were the pillars that sustained this new order. The action of Ananias and Sapphira was an attempt to introduce corruption, hypocrisy, and duplicity into the core of something that should be pure. It was a potential cancer that could metastasize and destroy the essence of the newborn faith. Peter, by saying that they lied to the Holy Spirit, elevated the transgression beyond a simple financial fraud. It was not a deception to men, but a blasphemy against the very divine essence that dwelt and operated in those first believers. The nature of lies and hypocrisy. What does this tell us about the nature of lying and hypocrisy? Humanity, in its incessant search for acceptance and recognition, frequently falls into the trap of presenting a facade of seeking the glory of men instead of divine approval. Ananias and Sapphira wanted the prestige of having given everything, but without the total sacrifice. They wanted the benefits of the community without integral commitment. This duality, this split between what is shown and what truly is the root of hypocrisy. And hypocrisy, when it infiltrates the sacred, is seen as an abomination. It not only deceives others, but more dangerously, tries to deceive the very nature of reality, the truth that emanates from the divine. The lesson of this tragedy is not just about divine punishment, but about the paramount importance of truth. In a world where truth is increasingly fluid, malleable, and constantly distorted to serve particular interests, the story of Ananias and Sapphira resonates with a grim urgency. How often do we observe hypocrisy in leaders, in institutions, even in our own lives, and the consequences manifest as the erosion of trust, the disintegration of communities, and generalized cynicism? Although physical death is not the usual retribution today, the spiritual and social death of integrity is an equally devastating consequence, a call for absolute purity. Why did God kill Ananias and Sapphira for lying? Perhaps the answer lies less in the severity of a vengeful God, and more in the incomprehensible holiness of a God who demands absolute purity, especially in the foundations of a new spiritual era. Their death was a surgical act, a painful but necessary cut to remove the infection before it spread throughout the body. It was an unequivocal demonstration that, for God, truth and integrity are not optional but non-negotiable foundations of any genuine relationship, whether with Him or with the community of faith, confronting our own truth. This episode forces us to confront our own relationship with truth. Are we willing to live with total integrity, even when it costs us something? Or do we continue to hold back parts of the price for ourselves, seeking the appearance of piety without its essence? The story of Ananias and Sapphira is an relentless mirror that shows us the depths of our own capacity for deception and the terrible consequences, visible or invisible, of trying to deceive the Holy Spirit who dwells among us. The portal to the unknown will continue to explore these mysteries, unravel the layers of time, and seek the answers that shape our destiny. The questions that remain are our call to action. What is the true price of your integrity? Are you discerning the lies that infiltrate your life and your community? How can we become guardians of truth in a world that seems to have forgotten it? If you have been challenged by these reflections, if you have felt the urgency of these revelations, then this is your place. Subscribe to the Portal to the Unknown, activate notifications, and join us on our incessant journey to unravel the deepest secrets of existence. There is much more to be revealed in the shadows of ancient texts and in the depths of the human soul, and your search for truth is essential.